All right, so today we are talking about the coaching carousel. We're going to talk everything detailing the coaching carousel. I try to get everything together in one mega episode. This is going to be a mega episode, and I might break it up, but we're going to talk about it. Right now, there are 49 coaches that have been relieved of their duties. There may be more, but 49 coaches as of this day. This is the day after Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you all who have been relieved of their duties at the FBS, the FCS, D2, D3, and NAIA level. In the Division 1 or FBS tier alone, there's been over $100 million, $100 million dished out or will be dished out in buyouts. That is crazy. I will tell y'all this. Everybody thinks about those buyouts and y'all think about coaches. I was in the player development role. We don't get those buyouts that coaches get. But in this, when these things happen, there's so much uncertainty for coaches, families, athletes, and support staff. And you go through this. I've been through this. I've been with a coach who was let go. We'll talk about what it's like. I've been with a coach to be let go. I've been let go. We'll talk about all that. But when you are on the hot seat, which I have an episode about being on the hot seat up here, or if you have a coach who is one of the hottest coaches out there, which I have an episode I'll talk about here in a little bit there as well, it just creates so much uncertainty. So I want to go through the many phases of the entirety of what's happening right now in college football, college athletics, whatever it may be, however this pertains to you and where you are. But I want to go through the entire phase of what this overall transition looks like when it comes to the coaching carousel. Thank you so much for tuning in to Beyond the Field's YouTube page. This is the Player Development Pod. I know I don't have one of those nice podcast mics, but this is a podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I do have one of those nice podcast mics because my wife purchased it for me. So let me not say that. I just don't put it in my videos. I need to put it in my videos here soon. But thank you for tuning in. My name is Ed Jones. I'm the founder of Beyond the Field, and I am excited to talk about all things player development because I was fortunate to be in the player development role at the University of Houston for their football team, at the University of Kansas for their football team, and Baylor University for their football team as well. And we'll talk about all that in this episode. So now, we're talking about the coaching carousel. We are talking about the coaching carousel, and this is a mega episode. So there's going to be a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about, a lot of layers in this episode. And I may break it down. I may not. I don't know. I break it down. I might cut it up and put out other videos. But we're going to get started here. I am super, super excited. In this episode, I will cover the following 5 phases. Well, 4, and I'm gonna give you a bonus at the end. If you stay till the end, you'll get a bonus. 4 phases of a coach transition, which involve player development. Number 1, I'm gonna talk about how to support coaches during transition. You know the transition's happening. Either the coaches were getting fired or your coach is going to another school. There's a way that you can support coaches from the player development role. Number 2, we'll talk about how to navigate the coaching transition. How do you navigate? How do you navigate when there's a new coach? How do you navigate if you get fired? The only thing I haven't done in my role is move with a coach from one school to another. But how do you navigate? Number 3, we'll talk about the real hiring order. When coaches get the job, here's the hiring order. And it's changed a little bit since my last episode because of the propensity, or not the propensity, but the advance and expanse of what today looks like with revenue sharing and different things like that. And then the 4th thing we'll talk about is my 5 interviews at 3 different universities in the player development role. And then I have a bonus at the end for you all, but it's a bonus. You have to wait until the end. All right, so let's get rolling. The first thing we're going to talk about this mega episode is supporting coaches when you're in player development. Coaches are dealing with so much pressure, right? And you can say, oh, well, they're getting paid the money. They are at certain places, not all places. There are certain places they are making a lot of money. They have all these pressures, right? They have the pressures to perform. Coaches overall have more pressure to perform because more money's involved, be that coaching salary, be that the roster. Coaches, that 5-year, 6-year contract and all you get, they ain't getting that. I'm shocked ADs don't sign 3-year contracts, or some of these coaches don't sign 3-year contracts. But you deal with all this pressure. You have that pressure. You have contract insecurity. Once again, you have a 5-year contract. They'll get you up out of there. They will let you go. For coaches, your contract isn't as long as the head coach. Maybe you're on a 2-year contract. You're doing well, and you don't know if the head coach is going to bring you back. Or you're like me, and you sign 1-year contracts. Big mistake I made. And you're like, all right, I know we're going to win. He's about to get a raise. Is he going to pay me? Am I going to be back? Right. So there's a lot of insecurity there. You have family stress. When these transitions happen, when you're on the hot seat, or when your coach is about to go to the next place, right, and you're with either in the hot seat or you're with the coach that's on everybody's hot list to bring them there, and it's just like you're dealing with family stress. You're dealing with the stresses of, okay, what are the kids hearing at school, right? What is my spouse hearing? My wife, what is she hearing at work? Or what is my family hearing? My mom's hitting me up. My brothers are hitting me up. People hearing, my friends, right? You have this stress where people are looking out for you. They want what's best for you, but you have this stress that can be added to what you're already dealing with. Then you got social media, right? Social media noise. To stay away from social media, you literally cannot have social media. But a coach has to have social media to recruit, to interact with athletes or players that they're recruiting. And so you have to have some type of social media. And social media noise is real. People can tag coaches. They can tag coaches. Social media is super real. I worked with a coach who, after games, he would literally come in and he would get on his phone and search his name just to see what people were saying. And I was like, I wouldn't do that, right? But people can get to him, right? Maybe you're trying to see a text message from your wife and you got so-and-so saying, hey, you're trash, I hope they fire you. Or, hey, so-and-so, you need to come to our university. Or, hey, we got, come here. So the social media noise is there. And then you have expectations. You have expectations of fans. When money gets involved, when people are putting their money, boosters and companies, organizations, however the money gets there, right? We could do a whole episode on that. But when that money gets there, there's expectations. You have expectations from fans. You have expectations from the entire university based off what other coaches are doing. Kurt Cignetti is doing a lot of great stuff at Indiana. He's turned Indiana around like that, right? And now you got other coaches that are like ADs and presidents and boosters are looking at these coaches like, hey, you can flip it like he can, right? So you have these expectations. Some of them are unrealistic expectations, and some you put on yourself. And so coaches deal with all this, and we in the player development role have an opportunity to support coaches, have a great opportunity to support coaches. That stress that coaches get, that stuff is real. Like, I've seen coaches gain weight, lose weight, gray out, fall out, just look miserable. And so we have an opportunity to support. So here are four ways you can support coaches during this time of transition. Number one, when I was in the role, you can support coaches and be a support by supporting their family members. Now, how can you do this? Communication. So when I was in the role, families would come to me for tickets. They would come for me for other things. And so I would, as best as I could, get as much questions that the families may have had for the coach, outside of personal questions, but anything that had to do with the program. Where are you guys going to be? Where's the gate here? Where do I get the tickets? Where do I pick up the tickets? What hotel y'all staying in? About any of that stuff, questions that families had. I tried as much as I could to help operations. And there was one point when one of our coaches, shout out to Texas Tech football, and Coach Joey McGuire went from Baylor to Texas Tech University, and my guy Quentin Jordan, shout out to Quentin Jordan, man. Quentin Jordan's one of the best doing it, man. He is legit. Man, hey, he is legit. Q, I learned so much from Q. Hey, Texas Tech, give that man the bags. Give him all the bags. But Q went to Texas Tech, and so he's doing operations, and so I had to help in operations. He was preparing me for it as well, and he was like, hey, Ed, can you do this? So I learned to help in communication with family members. And so that was one way to support, because coaches would literally just come in and be like, hey, here's my wife's number, or here's my son's number, or here's my daughter's number. They have questions. Can you answer it right now? I'm like, well, that ain't my job, right? And so I was able to help some coaches. A lot of coaches were able to alleviate some stress, and a lot of them really appreciated that they knew that their families could reach out to me about things pertaining to football. So that's one way that you can support coaches. You can go out there and say, hey, coach, don't worry about it. Whatever it is, I'll support. And I used to send messages, emails or text messages to the family members, like whoever was a point of contact. Hey, this is what's going on this week. And you could do a weekly review, or weekly preview, I should say, of everything that's going on, so you can support coaches that way. Number two, You can give coaches a heads up on changes. That goes a long way. That goes a long way. Giving coaches a heads up. They are back there watching film. They're recruiting. If you can give them a heads up on things that are happening, be it, hey, man, I'm hearing this with this, right? Or let's say if you're on the hot seat and they're out there recruiting or they're in there watching film, you say, hey, man, just want to let y'all know so-and-so is going to be here. Like they got some boosters walking around at 2 o'clock. Just want to make sure everybody knows. Just give a heads up. If I knew things, I wasn't going to hold anything back. I worked with somebody early in my career who would always want to hold stuff back so he can go to the meeting with the stuff so he can look good. That wasn't me. I was like, man, that's not good, because you get on the nerves of the coaches, right? Like, man, let us know. So you give them a heads up. Or if it's transition where a coach is headed to the next school, there could be some conversations. Hey, just want to give y'all a heads up. This blah, 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 blah. There's this reporter or these people or those people you see at practice. They're all kind of this. Just giving coaches a heads up. We had a situation where I was at one university where some coaches were on the road. They were recruiting, and one of the coaches who was on the road recruiting was he was in the running to be the head coach of the university. And so there were things we were doing on campus and things we had to get done, and he didn't know what was going on. So he would call me and be like, hey, what's going on? And so I'll be like, hey, man, this is what's going on. I'll give you a heads up from here on out. He's like, hey, was the AD around? What are you seeing? Like, what are you hearing? What's going on? He's on the road. There's other coaches on the road. Like, hey, what's going on back at the facility, man? Like, are you seeing other coaches coming in to interview? Like, what are you seeing? And these are people who I build relationships with. So you're giving them a heads up on, hey, this, that report you may have read on Scoop, that's not real. Or this thing you may have seen on Twitter, that's not real. Or, hey, so-and-so's in here, man. He's in the building. And so just giving coaches a heads up, right? It's a way you can support them. Heads up on this. Hey, coach, heads up. We got an all-staff meeting when you get back. Don't miss it, right? Those are heads up. Now, walking into that, the third thing is reminders. You can remind coaches. Give them reminders. So you're reminding them of things that have to happen, right? I always support coaches all the time. Coaches can get just really into their work. And going back to that all-staff meeting or meetings like that, coaches can dive and be like, hey, coach, we got a meeting. I would always pop up. One thing I do at Baylor and even with the university I use, when we go to staff meeting, I would just say out loud as I was going, headed to the staff meeting, headed to the staff meeting, headed to a staff meeting. So I'm just giving them a reminder like, hey, we got a staff meeting, or hey, coach, reminder, we got this, mandatory training we got to go to, or hey, coach, we got this, right? Very, very similar to heads up. Heads up is more relational, like, hey, here's a heads up, blah, blah, blah. Reminders can be to everyone. Hey, here's a reminder of this. Hey, coach, reminder, we have player development program in here. Your players need this. Hey, coach, reminder, your players have these tests, or coach, so-and-so's birthday's coming up, right? You can give coaches reminders. Those are ways to help these coaches, right? Give them reminders. Hey, hey, coach, reminder, you might want to put something out on social. You ain't put nothing out in a while. Like, recruits are looking. Hey, coach, you got this recruit coming on. You might want to stop by. Hey, coach, this high school coach coming to practice, right? So there's like reminders. Reminders and heads up can be very, very similar, but also give reminders in staff meetings. So you sit in a staff meeting with the entire staff. Hey, everyone, how you doing? Just want to give you a reminder. This is happening. This is happening. Here's opportunity. There's former players coming, right? So you can have those things there as well. And then the fourth way that you can support coaches is encouragement and relationship building, right? Encouragement, man. These coaches coach. I remember when I was at Baylor University, our offensive line coach, Eric Mateos, did an incredible job. Like, you could see our offensive line go from day one of spring to the last day of spring. Like, you could see the change. And just telling them, like, hey, man, you've done an incredible job. I've noticed you've done an incredible job with the offensive line. I think you've done an incredible job, right? And that's, you just work there. You build relationships with coach. Hey, coach, how are you doing, man? Like, you're in that building all the time. Some coaches don't want to build relationships. Hey, I'm not here to force anything on anybody. But there are a lot of coaches you can build relationships with and encourage. Hey, coach, defense looking good. Hey, coach, I like the way you communicate. One of my favorite coaches I work with, he's actually with the Detroit Lions right now, Caleb Collins. And when I was at Baylor, Caleb was a young coach, just finishing, but he communicated so well. He communicated so well to the point where I would watch the drill. I felt like I was a player. I felt like I could do what he was coaching them to do. I knew I couldn't do it, but I felt like I could. I remember I talked to him afterwards one day. I said, hey, man, Caleb, just want to let you know, man, like, dude, you are an elite communicator. I don't know if you know that, but you communicate this so well. When I look at drills, you don't have to re-coach. You don't have to reteach things because you communicate so well. So you can have that encouragement. And me and him built a relationship. Shout out to Caleb, man. I'm excited for him. He's with the Lions. Caleb actually sat in on when I spoke at the AFCA. He's sitting there as I'm talking about player development. And he's like writing all these notes. And he's like, man, thank you so much for that. He's going to lead a program at some time, program or team. And I'm excited to have that relationship. He's like, man, I'm using all of this. So you could build relationships with people, and you'd be shocked like how you build relationships. I always find people, what city you from, whatever it may be, if they're around, hey coach, I'm about to go grab some dinner. You want something? Or hey, I'm gonna go to the calf, like, or the training table. You want something? Hey coach, I got some water. You want some water? Chop it up with them, right? Encourage them. These coaches are coaches. They're people too. Now, once again, some do not want relationships. Some of them are, can be cantankerous, rigid, difficult. That's fine. You still could encourage them. Encouragement has nothing to do with who that person is. Now, relationship building, you got to be smart on that. So there are 4 ways right there to support a coaching staff. Now, whether it's transition or not, supporting coaches goes a long way in player development. Whether you are transitioning, let's say you're on a hot seat, or you're going to the next school, or you're in a place where you're good, everybody's good, you're going to be there for a while. Supporting coaches goes a long way. Some of the best relationships I have to this day outside of support staff people are coaches. I can call up coaches whenever. Hey man, how you doing? I'm in the city. Can I come by the facility? Absolutely. Hey, I'm in the city. I want to come to the game. Coaches randomly just hit me up. I had some coaches call me the other day, right? And it's tough. It's interesting because I haven't talked to some of them daily as much, but having those relationships go a long way. So that is the first part of this mega episode, and that is how you can support coaches. Now, before we get going any deeper, I want to talk to you about the 2026 Player Development Summit. The 2026 Player Development Summit will be in Detroit, Michigan. We are so excited. What up, though, to be there. And this will be a gathering of player development, athlete development professionals who are coming together, and we are growing, we're networking, we're partnering to continue to ensure that the enhancement of the athlete experience will continue even long when we're gone. Now, if you like a gathering like that, there's information in the show notes. And if you want to sponsor that, if you're a company that wants to get an athlete in front of athlete development professionals because you have a service that can help, or if you're like, hey, I want to hire athletes. We're a company, we like athletes, we want to hire athletes. Or if you want to give to a cause, right? You're just like, hey, it's the holidays. You're like, hey, I got some money. I want to do some things. I want to give to a cause. You can sponsor the 2026 Player Development Summit. All that information is in the show notes. All right, now let's get to the next part of this mega episode. And this one is how to handle transition when in the role. I've talked about this a little bit, hot seat, and working for a coach who everybody wants. You can find an episode right here about a coach that everybody wants. It's actually doing very, very well. I detail working for Tom Herman when he was the most wanted coach in college football. I have never seen anything like that. Like whenever we won, everybody wanted Tom Herman. But if you want to learn more about that, you can hit that there. All right, so I have been through the following transitions. So you all know I was in player development. I'm leading beyond the field right now. And at some point, if a perfect opportunity comes along, I may jump back in. We'll see. Maybe hire one of you all listening to this. But I've been through the following transitions. And so we're going to talk about it. I've had a coach leave. I've been with a coach who's fired. I've stayed in a role during transition, and I've been fired as well. And so when we talk about how to handle transition, we're going to break down the 3 areas, the 3 survival tactics or rules I've learned from all of them, but we'll break down those 3 in each of those 4 scenarios. So the first, let me give you the 3 rules, tactics, whatever you want to call them. Number 1, what I did in all of these, or let me rephrase that. I'm going to give you the 3 ways that you can handle the transition, and then we'll talk about the 4 scenarios I had. Number 1, communicating your value. Communicating your value. Number 1, communicating your value. That is super important as you go through this transition, is to communicate your value. Number 2, use your contacts. Use them. And maybe you don't like the word use. Take advantage. Maybe you don't like the word advantage. But just use your contacts, right? And then number 3, be there for the players. Be there for the players. Those 3 things will help you through any transition. communicate your value, use your contacts, and be there for the players. Now, we're going to talk about the first one, a coach leaving. And so we had a coach leaving, and this is when, like I talked about earlier, this is when Tom Herman went from the University of Houston when I worked there to the University of Texas. And when that happened, it was just like, oh, snap, like, he's gone. Like, he is gone. And it happens quick. I've seen a coach get fired. I've seen a coach leave. If you want to see people leave fast, when they get that new job, out of there, leaving everything behind. I mean, there was so much stuff that was in that office. He used to have like this specific jerky he used to eat, and like he left it behind. So we all kind of took the jerky. But in that role, when a coach is leaving, number one, going back to communicate your value, you want to communicate your value, right? So for me, what that looked like was the interim head coach, Coach Todd Orlando, came in and he said, hey, Ed, tell me what you do. He came in and said, tell me what you do in your role. And so I broke down, hey, Coach Orlando, this is what I do. I'm here for the players. You know, I help the players get in the community. I help them get, jobs, summer jobs, and help them towards things. This is before I truly built out player development, beyond the field. So I was giving them what Coach Herman had me do. And I say, I do some other stuff, academic liaison, do this as well, campus liaison, different things like that, right? So I'm telling Coach Orlando my value. He's sitting there, he's like, nice. And he comes back and he says, all right, so before we get to this bowl game, I know you can go on the road and recruit. And because I passed my recruiting test, he's like, I know you're a former high school coach here. I know you have relationships, but I need you to stay back and ensure that these guys get done everything they need to get done academically, because you're already doing it as academic liaison. And so I was like, cool. And did I want to go on the road and recruit? Absolutely. I wanted to go back to these schools. I wanted to go to the coaches. I was going to recruit the Houston area. I was going to go back to my old high school with the gear on and walk around the school and see all the people. But I knew I had value there. And when he saw it, I was able to show him the value I had, because we actually helped a lot of guys lock in before that bowl game. And so I got to sit down with the coach and communicate my value through the role based off what I did. All right, using my contacts. With a coach leaving, using my contacts. I got a lot of a lot of inquiries about what I was going to do next. So I was also the high school, Director of High School Relations. I can't remember my title. And so a lot of those contacts were hitting me up. Hey, Jones, I don't know if you're going to Texas with Herm. If you're not, I don't know if they're going to keep you. But you have a job. You can come work for me. And what was crazy about this is these were coaches that in programs that I wanted to work with. And if I would have interviewed before the University of Houston job, I would have never got a chance. One of these schools was Pearland High School, right, in Houston. And I remember the head coach was next to me. He said, hey, Jones, look, man, if it don't work out for you, man, I like you. You can come coach for me, right? And I'm like, dang, like, cool, sweet, right? And so I had the contacts on a high school level, like, hey, I'm gonna use my contacts I built through this, high school relations. I was like, I had contacts in Houston, Dallas, East Texas, San Antonio, Austin. So if I wanted to move, I had that. I had those contacts. I also had contacts at the collegiate level. People were asking about, hey man, like what you gonna do, different things like that. I was using as many contacts as I had. There were a few there who were like, hey man, we got some roles, whatever, using my contacts. Hey, how do you navigate this? I was talking to people, how do you navigate? He's going, how can I, be there, right? The one contact I wish I would have used was Tom Herman himself, right? I talked about this in the other episode. When he left, me and him got to spend about 2 minutes talking. And I wish I would have just said, hey, Coach Herm, look, I love University of Houston. He knew that was my alma mater. He knew that was my parents' alma mater. He knew I was from Houston. He knew I loved the H. But I wish I'd use that contact and be like, Coach, I love Houston, but if the opportunity to go to University of Texas, I can't pass it up, Coach. If you want that, if there's an opportunity there, please let me know. Or if I wish I'd have reached out to the people who were on staff with me, right? Who were there, who were leaving with him, the support staff members, right? So use your contacts. I had high school squared away because I was cool. I was a high school coach and I enjoyed player development, but I could have went straight back to coaching and teaching. It wouldn't have been nothing to me. But I used my contacts there. So I was solidified on the collegiate level. On the high school level, I had some solidification there on the collegiate level as well, because we had two coaches that were navigating possibly being an interim head coach. Like I said earlier, it was Todd Orlando. The other one was Major Applewhite. So I would talk to Major Applewhite every now and then. Me and him built a relationship, and he was asking different things about the program structure, things like that. And so I was using those contacts. It was kind of interesting because both of them were interviewing, in a sense, at the same time, right? And then we had some coaches, some well-known coaches. Well-known coaches. One of those well-known coaches is in a debacle, not a debacle, but a conundrum right now, who had reached out and they were in the running for the job. And they were using those contacts. They had heard and we had reached out. I'm like, hey, who knows so-and-so? If he gets it, can you help me, right? So use your contacts. And then number 3, be there for the players. Be there for the players. So when coach left, I talked about it in the episode, being there for the players was allowing them to come talk to me and being real with them. They were like, Jones, when are you leaving? I said, look, man, I haven't been called. I don't know when I'm leaving. It looks like I'm going to be here, but I'm open to any opportunity. But also I could get fired as well. Like, I don't have a job. So I have no security. So it wasn't just about me. I had to be honest with them for them to open up. But I was just being there for them, listening to them talking about this and like, man, that's crazy, coach gone. And we had talked, some kids were thinking about transferring and some kids were like, man, I want to finish here strong. Like, man, we could do this. Like, we got this, man. We're the University of Houston. So I was there for the players. It was tough situation, but you got to be there for them. Had an open door, talked to their parents, did as much as I could on that end to be there and understand where they're coming from. But I was there for them. So those are the 3 survival tactics. I want survival rules. The 3 I got to come up with something there for that. But the 3, let's call it that, survival rules I had for that. Now, let's move to the next situation, a coach being fired. A coach being fired. So this one was, I talked about this also with Coach on the Hot Seat, that episode I've mentioned earlier. And this is when Coach Applewhite got let go at the University of Houston. We were a winning team. We had a winning season. I always have to say that. So that's the reality for some of you all that are looking to get in a role. It may happen. But when using those 3 survival rules, the first one, communicate your value. I was prepared to communicate my value with the incoming head coach and staff, and I actually communicate my value with some of the boosters. And so that was a time where I did that as well. I thought I did with the AD. I should have done a better job of that. But also communicate my value. In that episode, you heard me talk about it. I mailed letters to other coaches because I knew, like, I don't know if this guy's going to keep me, blah, blah, blah. I communicated my value. I wrote 12 letters to coaches. Hey, my name's Ed Jones. Here's a brochure of what I've done. If you're looking to do player development at the university you're at, please let me know, right? So I started communicating my value with strangers, per se, to make sure that I had opportunity to get a job. Number 2, use your contacts. I definitely use my contacts on this one. Because this one I was like, okay, this is different than the Herm. I got hired. I felt like one of Coach Orlando or Coach Applewhite's gonna get the job, so I felt good, like I could keep my job. But this one was different when Coach Applewhite got let go. And so I was using my contacts, and I'm sitting there, I'm texting people at other schools, they're hitting me up. Even one guy it was a construction company in Houston, and he hit me up the day afterwards. He was like, hey man, I don't know if you still want to do sports, but what you're doing for those athletes, I want you to come do this for my company. So I kept that contact, right? There was corporate contacts. So this was new to me, right? Corporate contacts, right? Still had the high school contacts, but at this time I was a little pulled further away from being in high school. So I kind of wanted to stay on the college level, and I was prepared. I used my contacts. I went to the AFCA convention. I'm sitting there talking to people. I'm having conversations. I got brochures. I'm sitting here like, let's talk about it. I'm connecting with people. Hey, are you gonna be at AFCA in San Antonio? Yeah, I will be there. Sweet. Let's have time. Let's sit here. Let's do this. So I definitely use my contacts in that. And then the third was being there for the players. Like when Coach got let go, that was tough. And we were there for the players. It happened very, 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 very fast because it happened during the break and then we all came back. But I was there for the players as much as I could be. My phone was there. I would have conversations with them. Like, man, Coach, like that's messed up. Coach, are they going to let you go? Don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. We're going to see. I had opportunity. They were still kind of during break, so I don't remember seeing all of them. They were coming back because I remember they had a press conference coming soon, but it happened during their break, their break. So I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to players per se. There were some that were in the city who were just there in discretionary, just around the facility, but didn't get a chance to say goodbye to the entire squad. I actually got to talk to them driving on my way to Kansas, but I was there for them as much as I could be. I was there. My phone was there. They knew they could get to me, and that was that. So that's how that transition was when a coach was being fired. Now, staying in the role during the transition. So this goes back to when I went from Houston when I was in Houston and I got to stay hired. Probably should have done this one before the last one, but it still works. So I got to stay in the role. I got hired. I'll never forget, I got the call. So they did kind of like, I remember Hunter Yurachek tweeted out It was, or maybe him and Dr. Renu Couture tweeted out like the red smoke that comes out the building. It's like it has to do something with the Pope. When they find a new Pope, they let out smoke, they let out red smoke. So I called Coach Applewhite just to be like, hey, Coach, congratulations. Happy for you. Really, really excited, you know. And then he's like, thanks so much, Ed. He was like, Ed, I want you to be on my staff. I was like, all right, sweet. Like, I got a job. Let's go, right? And so he was like, hey, man, you know, I want you to be in recruiting. And I need to do a whole episode on that. I was in recruiting for like 8 months. And I was like, Coach, I really love this player development. He's like, I want you in recruiting. I want you to help. And I was like, you know what? I didn't have a job, so I'm going to do it. So and that was good there. And I try to communicate my value. I bring that up. I try to communicate my value on the player development side. Like, hey, Coach, just want to let you know this player development side, I really, really want to help the players. But I needed a job. He said recruiting, so that's what it was. It's pretty interesting. I'll talk about it later in this episode that we actually had an opportunity where me and Coach Applewhite both came to a point where we both like, yeah, I need to go back. I was already there, and then we had a meeting, and he saw it as well, and he's like, man, I got a chance to communicate my value there to get back in the role. I was like, hey, Coach, you know, man, there was a couple young men who were struggling on the team at that time. I'm like, Coach, if I wasn't in this recruiting role or watching film or reaching out, I could spend time with these guys. And so we agreed there. So I communicated my role. I communicated my value there. Use my contacts. I use that more to, when I use contacts and stay in a role, is more to, okay, hey, I'm here. I'm locked in. I feel good. I use more of my contacts in the corporate world as we were building out beyond the field. And so I reached out to these people like, hey, I just want to let you know I kept my job. I want to reach out to you all. Let's start creating some stuff. So I use my contacts to create more programming there, if that makes sense. So I was more like, all right, cool. I'm here. I'm going to be here for the next whatever. I think Coach had signed, I forgot how long his contract was. But I was like, we're going to be here for a little while. So let's do that. So I use my contacts to help me there. Use my contacts with high school coaches to help when I was in the recruiting role. Just let them know, hey, we're still here. We're going to be here. So use my contacts there. And then being there for the players. This was probably the hardest one during the transition because I was there for the players. But when I did recruiting, I'll never forget one of the players, actually Isaiah Johnson, who got drafted by the Raiders. And man, I remember me and him were in the hallway in the equipment room, and he was like, man, you don't rock with us no more. And I'm like, man, look, man, that's not the case, man. I'm working in recruiting. I got to watch film. I got to do this. I got to do cut-ups. He's like, man, you used to be around all the time, man. And like, man, we don't see you no more. And that, like, I ain't gonna lie, that was like, dang, man, that hurt because I wanted to be in player development, but I had a job. I had a job to do for Coach Applewhite. I got a raise, and I needed that job because I took a $27,000 to $37,000 cut to go from being a high school coach to working at the University of Houston. So when I got that raise, it's getting me back to what I was earning and what I was saving and making my lifestyle. And I'm very cheap, but you take that big of a cut, and there's some things you can cut back. It was good to get back. So being there for the players for me was like, hey, I'm here, y'all. I'm here. I know y'all don't see me. I'm here. And eventually what happened was, like I said, me and Coach Applewhite got to a point where I wasn't doing great in my recruiting job because I wanted to be around the players. Whenever they came around, I just stopped watching film. I spent time with them. So I had to stay up all night watching film because I was like, the priority here is being around the players. And so we all came to this agreement like, hey, I got to go back. Like there was a consensus on the staff. Ed's got to go back to player development. So I was able to get back there for the players and be with them there. But that was the toughest time I had in my player development career. That was about 8 months. 7 or 8 months where I was just like doing recruiting, and I thought I could handle both, and I just couldn't. It was so much film to watch. And so shout out to you all that do recruiting. I might do an episode on that, like what it was like to do recruiting. I learned a lot of stuff from recruiting, working with my guy, Alex Brown, Bobby Merritt. Man, I learned a lot working there. So that was staying in the role during transition. And now here's the one a lot of people don't want to talk about or admit. How did I handle transition when I got fired? I got let go. I'll never forget. It was December 16th, 2021, day after signing day. We signed the #1 recruiting class at Baylor University at 7:52 in the morning. And the chief of staff said, hey, the head coach wants to talk to you. This was 8 minutes before a staff meeting. So I'm like, why am I meeting with coach 8 minutes before a staff meeting? I thought he wanted me to say something about, signing day. I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, I haven't said anything the whole time. And so I walked in and heard, hey, man, you did a great job. You've done a great job with the players, but we're going to let you go, which was kind of interesting to me. The term was, I did a great job with the players, but I didn't do a great job with the staff, which I thought it was weird. But it's unfortunate. It happens. The Yeah, it happens. I'll leave it at that. But I got fired there, and so it was different, right? It was like, all right, cool. And I remember asking, we were going to the Sugar Bowl right after we won the Big 12 championship, and I said, all right, cool, Coach, I get it. I get it. I kind of saw it coming. Some of you all, I've talked about this before. There was a lot of tension. I'll talk about it as well later in this episode when I talk about interviews. I was told I was going to do something in the role. I wasn't able to get that done in the role. Wasn't given the access, the resources, the opportunity to do what I wanted to do in the role. So I felt at some point it was going to happen. I was kind of confused because normally when people get fired, from my vantage point in sports, a lot of responsibilities get taken away, but I kept getting responsibilities, specifically when Joey McGuire went to Texas Tech and Quentin Jordan went with him. And so anyway, I'm sitting there and I talk to Coach and I'm like, hey, well, Coach, your decision's your decision. Do you mind if I just go to the Sugar Bowl and end the season with the players? It was a great opportunity. My wife had already set up to go. My mother-in-law was coming and my aunt was coming. They already purchased tickets and got a hotel room and everything. And so we were excited because me and my wife were going to spend some time in New Orleans. And I was told, hey, you're gonna, today's your last day. You could pack up your office or we'll pack it for you and ship it to you. And I was like, oh snap, okay. Got it, right? So unfortunate, but that's part of it. That's part of working in sports, And so when that happened, I had to communicate my value, and I really, truly had to communicate my value. And this is the one thing I wish I would have done differently going through this firing. So there's a lot of people that give you advice when you get fired, like, hey, don't let people know you get fired. You want to make it look good. Don't change your role. I think it's a new time. I wish I would have went on and you can't say anything bad about the person that fires you at the university because you won't get your money. I had about half of my contract coming in, about $60,000, I think. So I was like, all right, so we were at you can't say anything. The parties can't say anything about each other, which I didn't, but they did. And so people tell you don't do that, but I wish I'd have jumped on and been like, hey, my time here at Baylor's done. Unfortunately, I've been let go, because I would have been able to show that. And then I would have said, hey, here are the things I did in the player development role. And not to bash the decision that was made, because that is what it is. It was toxic, like I said, anyway. But I would have been like, hey, this is what I've done. I've created this, I've done this, I've done this. So I would have put my value out there immediately. And I've actually even had chances to help people I've mentored who have been let go. And they're like, what do? I'm like, you got to go right back out there and let people know, hey, this has happened, but I'm also valuable. Because I had a conversation with someone at a university I worked at previously, and he was like, yo, if we would have known that, we would have brought you here. Like, we were, and so I was like, dang, so I would say to anybody, if you get fired, like, let people know fire is part of it. It's part of it. Like, my pride was in the way. And really, my pride was in the way. And, and also people were talking to me during that time. I had an SEC school hit me up during that time. I had a professional team hit me up during that time. So I also was like, I'm going to be good. Like, I'll get a job. And my career had a good trajectory. But if I could do it differently, I would communicate my value off the rip. Hey, I got let go. Hey, the coach went to another school. The new coach fired me, whatever. Hey, I got let go. Here's what I've created. Here's the value there. And so that's what I done. I would have used my contacts. And so I let people know that I knew well. It actually worked for me. I let some NFL scouts know that I got let go. And one of the guys, he didn't understand it, but he worked for the Dallas Cowboys. Shout out to Chris Hall. And he got me opportunity. It's back here. I want to pull it down, but I'm going to just, because if I pull it down, but it's back there. He got me an access with the Dallas Cowboys to be at the combine. And so he's like, man, you need to come to the combine. You need to meet people, man. And some people asked me, did I want to be a scout? There was that opportunity. They were like, man, do you want to get into scouting? And I was just like, with a young family, they travel a lot. And so I got to meet a lot of people in player engagement, and that was cool. But I used my contacts. I let them know. I let some other coaches I knew know. I wish I would have let more people know. I was afraid of, really truly what I was afraid of letting people know is when a college football coach is winning, it doesn't matter what's said. So there were people who I knew, who knew me, who were questioning my character because this coach let me go. And so once I started seeing that, I was like, I'm gonna hit up other people. Like, if you know who I am and you're questioning this, and I'm telling you this is why I literally got fired. I can't tell you why he fired me, right? And you're trying to figure out if there's anything else, I'm good, right? But I wish I'd used my contacts. Specifically, I had deep contacts on social media. So like I said, I would use that post there. And then being there for the players, this actually was pretty interesting. Being there for the players, after I got let go, instead of going to clean my office, I made sure I talked to as many players as possible. Why? Because there were things that were said about me that were lies. I saw there were being lies about other people. And so I wanted to go to the players. I wanted to go to the players and say, hey, this is what it is. And so I was able to go there. And some of the players were really, really frustrated. Really, really frustrated. And some of them wanted to, nah, man, we're going to get your job back, man. I was like, hey, man, look, it is what it is. I knew some of them were seniors. I was like, they're going to lie about me. I don't want nobody to spread lies about you as you get ready to go to NFL. And so it was there. But I was there for the players. One of the cool things I was able to do is their graduation. So I got fired on signing days on a Wednesday. I got fired on a Thursday. And so I was there Saturday. They graduated Saturday. I was at their graduation. That's being there for the players. I told these players I had relationships with them. And I remember a couple of players were like, man, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you here? Like, why would you come, you got fired. I'm like, bro, I'm here for y'all. When I told you I'm here for y'all, I'm here for y'all. And so I was one of the few staff members there at the graduation, right? And they were just like, Coach, I don't understand that. I said, I told y'all I'll be there for the players. And so those are the 3 areas I used in that transition, right? It was tough. Like I said, the fire. If you're getting fired or close to getting fired, you've been fired before. Communicate your value. Drop your pride. People are looking, right? People respect you and people want to work with you. And I feel like if I'd have opened up earlier, I probably would still be in the role. But if I was in the role, I wouldn't be able to do this, right? I wouldn't be able to help so many people. I get to help people around the world, right, through this platform. So that's here or there. We'll see, right? But those are 3 things that you've heard me talk about, all 4 transitions, right? And the 3 things I used in each of them was I communicated my value, I used my contacts, and I was there for the players. And so if you're going through that transition, communicate your value, use your contacts, and be there for the players. Those will help guide you as you transition. They are tough. Transitions are tough, right? They're tough. Either way, it's tough because you're sitting there. It's all this uncertainty in this coaching carousel. Remember, this is a mega episode about the coaching carousel. But as they are tough, you got to navigate them strategically. And so those 3 areas will help you navigate them strategically. Now, you're sitting there and you're like, man, you really know a lot of stuff about player development. You've been in it. You've been through a lot. I have. And because I have, what I've done is I've written a book called The Player Development Guide. And this goes through all the processes I used in the role at the University of Houston, University of Kansas, and Baylor University. And this will help you create impact in the lives of athletes. You can get it now on Amazon. Shout out to my guy, George Majid. George Majid did the cover. He did the formatting of the entire book. So that's there. This is a book I love there. And if you want it signed, if you want bulk copies for your staff, or if you're in sports management, you want me to get copies or make this material for your students or whatever it may be, reach out to me. My email is edward@btfprogram.com. Would love to make that happen for you. All right, we just talked transition. Now let's talk who coaches hire when they get the job. So we just talked transition. I talked to you about how you can navigate transition, but now these coaches are getting hired, right? We talked about coaches getting fired. This is a mega episode about the coaching carousel, but now coaches are getting hired and they are getting their staffs prepared. They're getting their teams prepared. And there is a order of what I've seen, and they could be, it's different per coach, but overall what I've seen, the majority of coaches do, they've ordered in this order. Now with revenue sharing, some of that is, these places can be here and there. I did an episode about this previously and had to change it a little bit because of revenue sharing, but let's talk about it. All right, when coaches are getting a new job, the first thing they have to do now, the reality of now with revenue sharing and the transfer portal, is they're going to hire their front office. Specifically, they may bring somebody with them. Maybe it's at a university where, like, for instance, Tom Herman goes to a Texas, right? They're bringing somebody with them. Right now, recently, I think Eric Morris I think it's been confirmed. Eric Morris went from North Texas to Oklahoma State. He may bring his front office with him, right? That front office may have opportunities at other schools. So normally they bring the front office, and the front office can include the general manager, someone that is doing contracts or negotiations or agent relations, right? Personnel, scouting and recruiting leaders or people in those staffs there, because they got to get there. They got to build this roster. They got to negotiate things. They got to understand how much money's there. They also got to scout not only high school players, but players of other schools. They got to scout, watch film on the players, a retention specialist, right? So a coach is getting hired. They're going to bring that front office. They're getting that GM. They're getting all that set, because what's happening right now, if a coach is getting hired right now, this is the last game of the year right here. You got the last game of the year, you got the bowl game. So there's coaches in place, there's things in place, but you're getting your front office people so that you can start building that roster if you haven't already been doing that, right? That first hire is going to be a front office hire. That second hire is going to be operations. It's going to be operations. So this changed a little bit from my other one, but you have to get that operations person in there. You got to get that person in there, and some of them are already there, right? And some coaches use those operations people in there, and they know that hey, if you're doing ops right now, you're here till the second signing day, and we're going to figure out what we'll do with you then. So those operations people may be looking at are already there, but you're going to hire an operations person. This is the person that's running the details of the program, running the external, running all the stuff, the operations. So the GM's doing everything on the roster and all that. Your operations person is the everyday, the schedule, how we're doing this. The coaches, they're helping get stuff prepared for interviews. And so you got one person focusing on the roster, another person focusing on the program and the day-to-day. And so they're hiring that operations person. Then that third hire is going to be a strength staff, right? It's going to be a strength staff because they're going to get started in winter training. Winter conditions going to come early in January. And right now you're going to look for that strength staff because you want to sit down with them. You want to start planning things. You want to make sure that culture's there, because that strength staff is going to spend so much time with the coaches, because the coach is going to go on the road. They're going to go on the road and recruit. And that strength staff, is going to spend so much time with the players and your roster. So you got to hire strength staff. Most of them already know, or they're interviewing strength staff. But a strength staff is going to be important. And normally they go, strength person going to bring their 1 or 2 people, and they'll bring the back half of their strength staff at the end, which we'll talk there. But they're hiring that strength person, that coach that helps with the culture that the coach is setting. The fourth hire is going to be your coordinators, right? So now the coaches, you built the roster. You got the operations, you got the strength staff handling the weight room, the culture, all the training things there. Now you're going to get that coordinator. You're going to get coordinators. Maybe they're coming with you. Maybe they're not. Maybe that coordinator is going to get the head job where you leave, right? So now you're getting coordinators. This is what we want to do on the offensive side of the ball. This is what we want to do on the defensive side of the ball. So now you have the person who is leading those two sides and special teams, where this is how we're going to do things special teams wise. So that coach now is going in to get the coordinators. These are the groups we're going. This is how we're going to play ball, right? Play ball. Because you got everything set up, right? So far, most of it. You got your GM who's building a roster, right? They're making the negotiations. They're having all things. They're meeting with the boosters. They're meeting with NAIA. They're doing the revenue sharing, all that. You got operations persons, meeting with the campus, meeting with athletic director, meeting with this, finding out about this building, finding out when they get in this facility, finding this, getting with facilities. Shout out to facilities. Facilities people don't get enough credit, but man, I've worked with some incredible facilities people at every university I was at, right? So operations is handling all that. Then you got the strength staff. They got the team. They got the team in January, the ones that stayed, the ones that came in, the ones who signed. They're working and they're getting ready. They're letting them know this is how it's going to be in the program. And then now you got the coordinators who are preparing. They're getting the coaches to get all that ready because they got to get on the road, recruit. It's very important to get the coordinators. They're building all the stuff as you get prepared for spring. And then after the coordinators, of course, the position coaches. So now you're hiring the position coaches. You know what your salary pool is now because you hired the coordinators. So you know how much money you sit down with your operations person. This is how much money we have for this coach, this coach, this coach, this coach. Operations can also be chief of staff as well. But these are all the people leading operations. So you're saying, hey, this is what we got. We got position coach. Okay, we got this much for a D-line coach. Let's go get a D-line coach. We got this much for O-line coach. Let's go get an O-line coach. So now you're hiring those position coaches, those people who are going to transfer that everything that the coordinator wants, everything that the head coach wants, all the stuff that the strength coach has done onto the field. And then last, but definitely not least, come on somebody, is the player development person and the support staff. So in my experience in the role, I have always come in a wave, that last wave of hiring. It's normally right after the February signing day. So when I came to University of Houston, it was me, it was director of recruiting, it was a couple quality control GA. So it was about 6 of us that got hired at the same time. When I got on in Kansas after signing day, it was about, or Kansas was right before signing day. But when I came in, I was that wave of, it was like 12 of us that got hired, right? So player development and the rest of the supporting staff. And then at Baylor, when I got hired, it was another wave of people. It was like 8 of us, right? So that last hire, you're going in there, and of course there's hires that happen because people are bouncing around. This coach gets a job, he go gets this. But that last significant hire that coaches make is going to be where player development comes in. I'm talking about player development because this is the player development pod and the rest of the support staff. And so that's where we come in on that wave. And it's pretty interesting how it changed. The changes I have from the first episode to this one was I had operations a little further down and strength staff up. But now with all this stuff they got to do, operations is definitely up there. But that's the breakdown when coaches getting hired. And the reason why it's good to know this is because if you're waiting to get hired, you're like, I'm player development, they can hire me right now. I'm telling you right now, I have never, when I got hired, I never got hired before now I have got hired at the same time as the recruiting staff, but that was in an imperfect world. Situations happen, but they had already, the coach was already there and they were bringing in a new person, but they had everything set up. I'm talking about when a coach takes it over. But I was always hired at the same time. I wasn't going to be hired before the strength staff. I wasn't going to be hired before the coordinators. I wasn't going to be hired before the position coaches. I was going to be hired in that last wave. Now, could those people be in that last wave? Yes. So if you're sitting there and you think of player development and you know this coach has got a job and you're sending stuff right now might not be the most strategic time to reach out to that coach because that coach may not be thinking about a player development hire right now. They may not. Maybe they are. Maybe things have changed. And so this is a time where you start seeing who's getting hired and then you make connections based off who's getting hired. And you kind of understand the process. Okay, cool. That's the front office. Okay, that's the operations person. And they never release who the operations person is till late. That's another thing too. So you got to do your homework on that. But this position coach is there. Now I know him. I got that contact. Let me ask him then. Because if you're reaching out, this is something I did. Once again, I told y'all earlier, I wrote all those letters to all those coaches. If I would have known that, I would have paused a little bit and then had an opportunity to write those letters to those coaches. So you just want to be strategic as you're getting ready and you want to be hired in player development to know when these coaches are hiring these different positions at the time. Once again, this is the mega episode here about the coaching carousel. I'm loving this. This is awesome. I want to do more episodes like this. Instead of just breaking them down, just do one long one so you can get it all. Come to the player development buffet. While you're there, check out my book. The Player Development Guide. I'm gonna take a quick water break here because we're going in. But yes, all right. Now we're moving to this is the fourth area here. So we're talking about the 5 interviews I had at 3 universities. And now I'm gonna talk about these interviews, but the big thing there with these with these interviews is I'm taking you into what an interview looks like. So you can know what to be prepared. I'll share a lesson of what I learned through those interviews after I talk to you about those interviews. But these are the 5 interviews I had at 3 universities. I know that sounds crazy, but I literally had 5 interviews at 3 universities. All right, so first interview I had is at the University of Houston with Tom Herman. That was my first time getting into the player development role. I was a high school coach. Some of y'all have heard this before. I was a high school coach at Hightower High School, my alma mater. Shout out to the Hurricanes. And Coach Craig Nivers on the road. He was our coach that recruited our school. And he said, hey, I'm coming in. Just won the Peach Bowl, beat Florida State. He's like, hey, I'm coming to your school with Coach Herm. And so I'm like, all right, cool. So I get all the recruiting stuff ready. I'm printing out stuff. I knew our junior class didn't have as many Division I athletes as our sophomore class did. And so I'm sitting there breaking down, hey, coach, just want to let you know this class has this, that class has that. So I'm sitting there talking to him and we start talking. And shout out to my head coach, Coach Pedrick McGinnis, who was at Hightower. He just did an incredible job at Eisenhower High School, taking them to the playoffs. Coach McGinnis, can't thank you enough for what you've done for my career. And so Coach McGinnis, big guy from Baton Rouge, he's leaning back, and I'm going to use his accent. He like, hey, Coach Herm, man, if I was you, man, I'd be, I'd be here trying to get at Jones, man. And he said, Coach, that's exactly why I'm here. And I was like, wait a minute. And so he came in and he's like, I'm here to see you. Where can we go interview? So Coach Herman comes up and I'm like, man, there's coaches in the office and meeting room. They're watching film. And I'm like, hey, y'all, just want to introduce y'all to Coach Tom Herman. They're all shaking his hand and they're kind of standing there. And I'm like, all right, y'all got to go because he's about to interview me right now. And so we get in there. I'm interviewing with Coach Niver and Coach Herman. He's asking about me, and which was interesting, right? Coach Herman, I would retweet stuff from the University of Houston football program. And Coach Herman would retweet it from my page, which I thought was weird. I was like, but he's got his own page. But he's doing his research, found that out. But I'm talking to him, and we're sitting there, and he's asking me about myself, and he's talking about, I've been to a couple of practices. He invited a whole bunch of University of Houston alumni out, so I've been there. And he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm telling him, man, I'm excited. Thank you so much for what you did. We actually had 5 players on the team from Hightower. We had Matt Adams, Khalil Williams, Joel Williams, Eric Parker, and long snapper. I can't think of his name. I can see his face. Logan something. I want to say Logan Piper. But we had 5 players that were from our high school on his team. So he's talking to us about those players as well. And so we get there talking. He's like, hey, man, we got a position. I've heard your name. Coach Niver brought up my name. Dallas Blacklock brought up my name. Coach Oscar Giles brought up my name. And so he's like, man, your name keeps coming up for this position. And he's like, I want to talk to you about it. And so I'm like, yeah, Coach, I'm first of all, I'm honored that you want to talk to me about this. Second of all, first of all, I'm honored that people say great things about me, because my dad always raised me on your name is a proverb, and I don't know the verse, but your name is greater. Your name is more precious than gold and jewels. Basically, have a great name. I don't want to butcher the proverb. And so I thought that was cool. And I was like, secondly, I'm honored that you would, think enough to come meet with me in person, interview in person. So we started talking. He talks about the role. He says, hey, as director of player development and high school relations, you're really good. A lot of high school coaches talking about you as well. So I'm like, dang, that's pretty cool. And so, yeah, Coach, I'm really excited, Coach, because at the time I wanted to learn more about O-line play. I'm like, yeah, Coach, I'm excited to join the staff and do player development. Man, I would love to learn more about O-line play. And he's like, he looks at me, he says, oh, you're not going to coach. You are not going to coach. You're going to do player development. You're going to take care of the players. If you want to coach, you need to show me that you're the best director of player development there is in the country. So I'm like, oh snap, right? And so Coach had to go take a break real quick. And so I'm sitting there talking to Coach Niver. Me and Coach Niver, we built a relationship after all the schools he was at. And so I'm like, hey man, like, am I good? Like, he's like, bro, you're good. You're good. I was just like, man, he kind of switched it on me. He got serious. Hope he knows I want this. Like, I don't want him to think like, nah, I just want to coach, but I want to be on the staff. And if I don't have to coach, that works. So anyway, he comes back and we're good. And we finished the interview. He's like, hey man, we're going to call you, we'll get through signing day. You get through signing day. I know you got guys signed up, and this has nothing to do with the guys. So we had 3 guys who were committed and then decommitted. He says, this has nothing to do with the guys who decommitted. They had to make a choice. We want you. We're not doing this to get other players. We want you, but we're going to get through signing day, and then we'll bring you on campus and we'll figure things out and all that. And so that was my interview there on campus. That was my first one with Coach Herm. And then I'll tell this before I get to the lesson, because this is a funny story. So I had a formal interview, and that was actually the day before signing day. The signing day was on, I keep forgetting signing day is on a Tuesday, Wednesday. Signing day is on a Wednesday. Man, hold on. Sorry, I gotta look this up, y'all. It's been a while, and I don't want nobody to be like, man, see this. All right, National Signing Day is, I want to say it's Wednesday. National Signing Day is on what day? Yeah, Wednesday. Okay. So we had an interview that Monday, Tuesday, a couple days before National Signing Day. So I have a suit on. I'm trying to get, so Coach McGinnis, I communicate with Coach McGinnis, like, hey, Coach McGinnis, I'm going to go do this interview. So I had a conference period, and I already kind of communicated with my social studies lead about it. So Coach McGinnis, like, hey, normally I work with the freshmen during my conference period when I didn't have to do my teaching stuff, or when I was done with my teaching stuff. So, hey, Coach McGinnis, I'm going to go here. I'm going to get dressed. I was going to dress in a suit in my classroom and then head out. So I got a suit on, and Coach McGinnis like, hey, Jones, like, you might want to leave earlier because, like, I don't want you to miss this. I'm like, nah, I'm going to handle some stuff. I'm going to make sure the kids get to the first break, or get to the period that they get through the passing break, and then I'm going to leave. So I'm helping kids in the passing break, and the teacher's like, hey, Jones, I ain't never seen you in a suit. You look good in that suit, Jones. Why are you in the suit? Like, I ain't never. And I'm like, oh, sometimes I like to dress up. So, like, I'm talking to one teacher. I'm trying to walk out the back of the school to my car. So then another teacher comes up, and she's like, yeah, Jones, hey, you look good, blah, blah, blah. And Jones, hey, this kid said he want to talk to you. I said, I can't talk to the kid right now, right? So I'm getting pulled. I should have listened to Coach McGinnis and just left after my class instead of waiting for the passing period. So I am like, oh my God, I'm about to be late. I'm about to be late, right? Now, I know the University of Houston. I know how to get there. I know how to park. This is my university. This is my city. I know how to get there. So I'm through traffic, going the back way. And I think the interview was at like 2:30. And I am literally parking at like 2:25. And I'm like, man, like, oh. So I'm like running, putting on my belt and like different things like this. And oh no, my belt was already on, my jacket. Drop something on my pocket. So I'm like, no, I'm about to be late. So I'm running. I get up there right at like 2:29. So I'm breathing hard, all that. And as I'm sitting up there, Coach Bill Yeoman, Hall of Fame coach, is talking to Coach Herman. He's talking to Coach Herman, and he's talking to him, and I'm talking to the person up front. And Coach Yeoman talked to him for like 10, 15 more minutes. And so they came out and they were like, hey, man, Coach Yeoman. I was like, hey, Coach Yeoman, how you doing? And they were like, man, sorry, we're going to start this thing late. And I'm sitting there like, man, shout out to Coach Yeoman. So if there's any high school coaches going to interview with a college, leave. Don't sit there and wait for the passing period, leave. But the lesson I learned from my interview with Tom Herman was like, be the best where you are. So when I sat down with him and we had an interview in person, and at the school, he was talking about everything that people like. It was about what I was doing at Hightower High School. And it was just like, hey, man, we heard you're one of the best at what you do. The kids talked about it. That was something that a coach from TCU actually let me know. He said, and shout out to Coach Curtis Looper, who's here in Missouri, coaching for the Tigers. He told me one time, Coach Loop was like, hey, Jones, you're not going to be at the high school level for a long time. And I said, Coach, do you mind me asking why? He said, man, because these kids come on campus and the way these kids talk about you, Coach Patterson at the time was like, who is this guy? Because these kids talk about him so well. Like, I want people like that on my staff. And it wasn't just my kids. It was kids at other schools. There's kids at other schools. Matter of fact, I was at AFCA last year, and there were two kids that we coached against. And they said, man, and they saw me, one's Keith Domino, the other was Dondre Williams. We coached against them. And they were like, man, Coach, man, it's so good to see you, man. You did such a great job getting those guys recruited and different things like that. And they reached out. So these kids even from other universities were talking about me. But the lesson I learned there is everything he talked to me about was about what I did. And so you want to be the best where you are. You want to be the best where you are. Even when he said, if you want to be a position coach, you got to be the best director of player development. And so wherever you are right now, if you're a high school coach, you want to get into it, or if you're in academics, you want to get into player development, be the best where you're at. People talk about you based off what you're doing right now. And so I had a great opportunity to work at the University of Houston and get that in-person interview because people were talking about what I was doing in the current time and being the best person I could be with the role that I was in. All right, the second interview I had at the same University of Houston, was when Coach Todd Orlando became our interim. So Coach Todd Orlando became the interim. He came straight down to my office, I'll never forget. Shout out to Coach Orlando. He wasn't a man of many words. He's like, Ed, tell me what you do in your role. So I sat there and said, all right, Coach, give me a full breakdown. So I sat there and I told him everything I did in the role. And I was able to clearly communicate what I did in the role. And he sat back, he thought, okay, cool. This is exactly what I want you to do. I talked about it earlier. I wanted to get on the road and recruit, but he said, Ed, I thought I needed you to get on the road and recruit, but based off what you're telling me, I need you here. I've been looking for a person who's going to help me with academics and get this done. Because you're the academic liaison, I need you to stay here and make sure these guys are eligible for the bowl game. And so I was like, man, as much as I want to get on the road, like I said, man, a lot of my guys like, man, Jones, I wanted just to see coaches, not to stun on them, but like it's a lot of coaches that believed in me. And I got to build relationships, and I wanted to come through with the UH gear and just be there to recruit. And so I learned in that lesson, communicate your value with clarity. Communicate with clarity. I talked about it a little earlier. You want to communicate your value and what you're able to do with clarity. Because I was able to do that. Coach Todd Orlando put me in a position to have success and unlock something new that I could do. So I spent all my time in academics, spent all my time in compliance, making sure that we did everything that was necessary to ensure that the guys who put in the effort would be eligible for the bowl game. The third interview I had was still at the University of Houston. So this was, I talked a little bit about earlier. This is when Coach Major Applewhite got the job. I called him, hey, Coach Applewhite, I'm so excited you got the job. And he says, Ed, thank you so much. I want you to work in recruiting. And I'm like, Coach, I want to work in player development. He says, I want you to work in recruiting. I forgot to say this earlier, but this is why he wanted me to work in recruiting. He said, Ed, you're really good with relationships. You know this university. You have an excitement for this university in this city, and you care about people. And so when we talk about recruiting, this is what I want our recruiting department to look like. I want people who care, who are excited, who want to be here and treat people well. And so I was like, man, that's pretty awesome. And so I was like, yeah, coach, let's do it. Now, as I said earlier, 7, 8 months, I'm removed from the player development role. I'm removed from the players. So I'm sitting there like, man, I miss being around my players. I miss being around my guys. And what happened is I actually had a mid-year interview, another interview, I guess I would say, with Coach Applewhite, where we came in and I was at that point where I literally had on my sheet, I had a meeting with him. And on my sheet, I said, I need to ask him, how do I transition back to player development? So we go in there, we're talking. He's like, Ed, how you doing? I was like, Coach, I like recruiting, different things like that. It's cool. He said, hey man, I got something for you. I think you're missing being in player development. You're missing being around the players. And I'm missing that in in what we see and what we're having. And so I'm like, Coach, I am. He's like, hey, we got to get you back over there. We got to get you back over there. I see it. I see you're doing the best you can in recruiting, but I see that you love being around players. I see how you light up when you're in practice. I see how you light up when our guys come through. And he was like, I need you back there. I need you back with our players. I need that mentorship. I need that for the players. And so I was like, oh, snap, cool. Let's do it. When you want me to start, Coach? Because I was so excited to get back to player development. And so the lesson I learned there is coaches see your value when you're in your lane. And so even though I was doing recruiting and I knew I wanted to get back to player development, he saw the value. He saw the value in me. He said, you know what, let's get Ed back over here, because he saw what I was doing in the lane, which was not only doing recruiting, but caring for our players. And he saw the value because I stayed in my lane. Yeah, I could have went over there and done player development stuff. And it was hard, but I was like, I'm going to do recruiting, but I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to show all the stuff he said about how I care for recruits. I'm going to do the same exact thing for our players. And so he saw the value and said, I need this again in the program. And so I was so excited that Coach Applewhite allowed me to get back into player development, and that really, the rest is history after that. So I was actually pretty good at recruiting. I ain't gonna lie, you know what I'm saying? I could evaluate, I could do my thing. It was fun, and I'm glad I did it too, because it showed me like I really like the player facing side a little more. But if I have to evaluate, I could do my thing. All right, the fourth interview I had was with Coach Les Miles. So this happened. We got let go at the University of Houston, and shout out to Marcus Tubbs. Marcus Tubbs was our director of football operations, our chief of staff, and he basically gave my number when I came back after we got fired. He's like, hey, you gave your number to people at Kansas. So I was like, cool, thank you so much. And I remember right before we were going to get fired, I got a 785 call, and there was somebody from the University of Kansas. They said, hey, are you Ed Jones? I'm like, yeah. They said, we heard that you're the guy for the job. And it was Stephen Biter on the line. I'm like, hey, absolutely. I'm going to call you right back. I got to get fired. So they fired me, and I'm excited. I called Stephen Biter back, started talking about player development. And he's like, all right, we're going to set you up for an interview with Coach Miles at AFCA. So AFCA was the next week. And I remember having an interview with Coach Miles. I'm not going to lie. When I walked in there, I had like this moment of like, oh, snap, that's Les Miles. Like, he just has this aura. And so I had to I was kind of like, oh, snap. Because like Coach McGinnis, who I work for at Hightower, he loves LSU. And so he's a big LSU fan. He knew about Coach Miles. We had interactions with Coach Miles. And actually, Coach Miles, a couple years before that, sat down with me at breakfast and it was just us, just showed me who he was. Like, I was just a high school coach. I'm there. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? So we sat at breakfast to talk about one of our defensive linemen. And so from there, anyway, I remember all this, and we have this interview. So we get to the interview. I bring my brochure, and now I'm in there, and I'm telling Coach Miles all this stuff. I'm telling him, hey, this is what we did. This is what we can do. This is what we can do in your program. And he said, hey, I really, really like this. He said, I got a question for you. Can you do all this without me, necessarily telling you what to do? I was like, absolutely. I can do this, Coach. I'll be under your direction, but you don't have to micromanage this. I'm going to do what you asked me to do. And he was like, well, sweet. He was like, I remember him asking me, he was like, if I offered you this job, would you take it? And I kept my composure. I was like, Coach, I'd take it right now. Sometimes I wish I would have, if I knew I would have got the job. Sometimes I was like, Coach, I'm there. When you going back to Lawrence, whatever flight you on, I'm on that flight, right? But I did get the job. And so it was pretty cool. And I just remember thinking, man, he really just listened. He listened to what I was saying about player development. He liked it. He understood how it could help not only his program, but he could help recruiting and getting players to come to Lawrence, Kansas. And so it was just a really good interview. And one thing I thought was pretty cool. When he went to the restroom, he had my letters of recommendation or notes of my recommendation on this folder, right? And so he's gone. I look around. I'm kind of lean and look at the recommendations. I'll never forget a recommendation that Dan Carroll wrote for me. So shout out to Dan Carroll. Dan Carroll wrote this glowing recommendation for me. And the crazy part is I never sat down with Dan Carroll and told him about everything I was doing in player development. Like he knew and we would have conversations, but I never sat down and was like, Dan, this is what I do. But the way he wrote that, you would have thought he heard me say that. I would have said, Dan, write this down. And so that encouraged me in the role. Like for you all who may think that you're not seeing, people see what you're doing. If you make an impact, people notice it, right? And people are more willing to tell other people about the impact than they will you. So don't get discouraged if you don't hear it. Now, the lesson I learned from Coach Miles is creative freedom is a gift, like, and steward it well. He was going to let me just do it. And he did. But in the interview, he was like, hey, you're going to run with this. Can you get speakers? Yes. You're going to run with this. I want you to run with this. And I just remember thinking like, man, that's pretty awesome. And I did. I was able to do that at University of Houston as well. Coaches had a little more say. But coach was like, hey, man, you got it, man. I trust you. Like, you got great recommendations. And it was just like, man, having that freedom to do player development. And so for me, the lesson was I want to steward, outside of freedom was I want to steward this well. I want to steward this well. Because if he's allowing me to do this, I want to make sure I steward this well. So then my fifth interview happened at Baylor. So I was at Kansas and I started getting, I remember Coach Juice Johnson, who's at Texas Tech. We went to school together at University of Houston. And when he was at Kansas, they got let go. And I was at the University of Houston and we were about to get let go. I think he was at TSU for 1 year. And so me and him had conversations. He was just like, bro, so what do you do in the role? And I would let him know what I do in the role. He saw me live. And so he hits me up years later and he's like, hey man, we got a player development position at Baylor. Would you be interested? And I'm like, I was nerding out at this time. So I would meet with every person in the player development role. I would hold these Zooms and meet with everybody. So I'm going through my files like, no, Baylor don't have player development. I've been looking for it, right? So he hits me up. I get on an interview. I talk to the head coach there and we have some conversations. We had about 4 conversations about what player development could be. And I remember talking to the head coach at Baylor and being like, hey, the big thing for me was like, what could this grow out to be? I wanted to know what it's going to grow out to be because I had a great situation at Kansas. I had creative freedom. I had the support of the head coach. We were doing a lot of great things. So I didn't want to just leave. Now, Baylor was a $40,000 pay raise. So let's keep it a buck. You know, this coming right out of COVID where I was getting furloughed and people had to make decisions and that was just part of the reality. And you had a $40,000 pay raise. But even in that, I wanted to make sure that it was still an opportunity to grow player development. I was at the point where I'd done it for myself for 5 years and I wanted to hire people. I wanted to build out a staff. Clemson had a staff. I didn't want to build one out that big, but I wanted to build out a staff because I saw the impact we could make. So we had these conversations. That was a big thing for me too, because another question I had in the interview, Baylor had an incredible character formation department that was built by Marcus Sedberry and Corey Bolts now. And so they had an incredible character formation group. Student athlete development would be the equivalent for you all that understand it. So I told the coach, like, hey man, like y'all got 2 great professionals. Do I have space to grow? Do I have space to do my thing? And, you know, I said, I think there's differences when you do a team facing. He's like, yeah, you got space to grow. The head coach was like, you got space to grow. We could build this thing out in 5 years. I didn't want to build it immediately because I knew coach was there. Build out 5 years. We'll be the best, director of player or best player development department there is. He's like, hey, when I take trips to school, you can come with me to learn about culture and all this. So I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. Like that's stuff I wasn't asking for. I just want to make sure things are happening. So I do that, right? I do an interview and then starting to make sure every interview was different, but I just wanted to make sure that was there, that was solid. And so I took that job in the interview, but I learned pretty quickly in the role that wasn't going to happen pretty quickly. That was not going to happen. And one person told me this, and I'm glad she told me. Shout out to Tori Takel, Mama T. She's with University of Texas women's basketball right now. She's director of operations at Kansas. And she told me, she said, hey, Ed, I know this coach is saying all this, but the chief of staff has not been hired. And so this coach could say this, but normally the way it works is the chief of staff leads that, they talk to the coach. And so she said there may be some alignment issues because you're saying this to the coach and the chief of staff doesn't know. And man, that was like that was like a prophecy because there was so many alignment issues and at my time at Baylor. And I wish I could have went back and said, hey, what do y'all want this role to look like? But unfortunately, like I told you a little earlier, what happened. I did not get an opportunity to do this. I didn't get the opportunity, that creative freedom I had in Kansas. This was a total opposite of that. this was, I was not even brought in to do player development programming. So we would do player development programming. I would get a sheet and it would say, hey, this is what we're going to do for programming. With no intake, we had player development programming. I couldn't even attend. So this was night and day from Kansas. And the lesson I learned there was clarity and alignment matter more than title and salary. Now, I wasn't chasing the title or salary. Like I said, I was at the time assistant athletic director for player development and got a $40,000 pay raise. I actually went because I heard I was going to be able to grow to the next step that I wanted to grow in my player development journey, but that did not happen. But clarity and alignment matter. If you're going to a school and it's a great opportunity and it's maybe more money, finances. I mean, $40,000, y'all, that's hard to turn down. Somebody asked me, if you know what you know now, would you probably do it? I probably still would do it. We were able to do some things for my family that we hadn't been able to do before. Because I told you all, I took a $37,000 pay raise or pay cut to $27,000 to $37,000 pay cut to go to University of Houston. But as you're doing this, like, please find clarity and alignment. They matter more than anything. And so there just wasn't alignment there. And if I ever get opportunity to interview, I've had interviews and I'm like, I can't go through that again. Those 11 months were not great. Outside of the time with players was great and we won, but overall that wasn't great. So that's what I learned there. As I finished talking about my 5 interviews at 3 universities, one thing I want to talk about, one thing I learned previously to that is like logos matter. Some people chase logos and not the role. Make sure you're purposeful in finding a role that works for you. You want to make sure that it is purposeful there, that it works for you and where you are. All right. Now I told y'all, this is the bonus for sitting here and watching the entirety of this mega episode. So I'm going to give you 3 tips you need if you're going into a player development interview. So far in this episode, let me go back to my first card. Y'all got like 9 of these. So we talked about how to support coaches during the transition. We talked about how to navigate the coaching transition. We talked about the hiring order when coaches get a job. And we talked about my 5 interviews in player development. And so now bonus, I'm giving you 3 tips. Because some of you all was like, hey, that's great. You talked about your interview, but I have an interview in player development. I need some tips. So tip number 1 is to listen. Listen. You've heard it your entire life. Listen, okay? And you need to listen to coaches and athletic directors. What are they saying in this press conference? That athletic director, before they hire this coach, what are they saying? If they let the last coach go, if the coach left, they're saying, this is what we're looking for in a leader. This is what we're looking for our student athletes. You need to listen to what they're saying. Not only at the press conference, find the stuff. They're going to communicate normally with their own media department, but listen to what they're saying on other outlets as well. That head coach is going to have a press conference. He's going to sit there and he's going to talk about it all. He's going to thank all the people who've helped him. He's going to talk about what they're going to do as a program. He's going to talk about the type of athletes he wants in the program, what they're going to do off the field. And that's what you need to listen for. You need to listen to what this coach is saying about their program overall, right? This can happen at any sport. So now I know I was in college football, but this can happen at any sport. But that coach is going to talk about their program. For me, that coach, he was talking about his program and how this program was going to get done and what they were going to do. But for coaches, other sports, they're all going to say the same. If it's for coaches, he or she is going to say the same for every other sport. They're going to tell you everything you need to know in that press conference. So you need to listen to the press conference. And you need to listen to what they're saying. Don't listen for the coach speak. Coach speak is coach speak, right? This, that, but you need to see what they're saying. What are they saying? Get underneath that. What are they saying, right? Everybody wants their students to graduate. They're all going to say that. They want to be productive. But listen to what they say after that. How do they want them to graduate? How do you want them to be a productive person after that, right? So I would listen for that. Listen. Number 2, research. Do your research. Get that research on. It's so much information out there. So much information. You can research, number 1, the role. You can run the role on whatever. Break down this role. You can throw it in ChatGPT or whatever. What is the role? But ChatGPT, put your resume in there. What are the strengths? What are my weaknesses, right? But you need to research the role. You need to research the role. Number 1, what are they asking, right? If they told you, maybe you got an interview and they didn't tell you what it is, you can say, hey, quick question, can you give me like an outline of what this position? They probably have the job description somewhere, right? They can send that to you. So research that. Research the coach. Research the coach. If they've been a sitting head coach, how did they do player development at the last place? If they're a coordinator, were they ever involved? Were they ever involved in any player development activations? Were they? You need to find that out, right? Research the school. What does the school do? What is the school known for? What does the school do for their players, their alumni? You need to find those things out. They're there. Research. Research the conference. What does the conference do at a conference level? Does the conference, is there some activations you can have at the conference level? Do they have somebody that at the conference level who works on player development, athlete development, whatever that title will look like, right? And then research the city. What is the city doing, right? What is the city doing? Now, another way to research city, you got to research if you want to be there. Can you live there? Can you live there? So don't go in there saying, yeah, I'm going to be here for the next 5 years, and you get there 6 months and you want to move. There are some people that want to live in certain places. I've worked with people in player development. They want to work in certain places. Now, that's them. If you want to get into it, you may have to live places you have never left, specifically if you're single. If you have a family, you got to make your research for the city, but research the city. What are the opportunities? When I have to take jobs, I have to look at, can my wife get a job? Or is there a opportunity for my wife to get a job and have a job that helps her? She works in architecture, so I need to find cities that have architecture, right? I got to look at school districts, right? So you got to research the city, not only for what can help, how it can help you in player development, but also for you, because you're not going to be in that office all the time. Also for players, you need to find out, hey, I moved from Houston, I live here, this is what I do, this is where I go eat my stuff that reminds me back home, right? Seafood or whatever. You need to do that research. And then the big thing too is look at what's been done in that program, in that university. What has been done before? What is student, I forgot to say this, research student athlete development. How does this football team work with student athlete development, right? And then what has been done? What has been done? What do they do? Or do they do certain things? Do they do this program and that program? What has been done? And where are the areas where it can grow? Where are areas you can create things? And if things have been done, where is the improvement? The biggest room in the house is for improvement. Now I'll tell you a story. I had a chief of staff interview which was pretty interesting. Like they had a chief of staff position up and a player development position up, and the chief of staff position looked more like player development than the player development position did. So I was like, well, cool. I'm gonna interview for the chief of staff position. So I'm doing well. I'm going through the interview. I'm doing well. And then they asked me, and it was the one time I didn't research because I was like, I know it well. They said, tell us about our university. And I just like, I researched everything. I did so much research on athletics, so much on the city that I missed the research on the university and the stadium name. They got me on that. Tell us about the stadium. They were like, they were in one of our conferences previously. They're like, you at the University of Houston, tell us about the stadium. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't remember the stadium name. And so you need to research everything. It got me. I knew too. I was sitting there like, I was trying to finesse it, and I knew I couldn't finesse it. So please do that as well. And then the last one is to plan. They have told you pain points. You should have heard pain points from the first time they reached out to you till the interview, right? Until you get ready for this interview, somebody probably had a precursor or a prerequisite. I don't know what to call it, but a interview or a talk with you about, hey, this is why this role is important. Why this role is important to the football program or to the whatever program or to athletics as a whole. And so when they're saying this, you can ask, hey, so, what does it look like? What are y'all looking for? And what have been some challenges, right? You're listening for pain points, because now you can plan off the pain points. You can plan off the pain points. But bring up surface level solutions, though. I will say this, bring up surface level solutions, because you don't want to give them everything, because you give them everything, they're going to take off with that, right? I have a podcast episode right here, Interviewer Beware. Oh, no, it's not Interviewer Beware. It is, they took all my stuff. It's up here, but it talks about you can't give them everything, right? One of my guys, he worked at another university when I was leaving Baylor, or when I got fired at Baylor. He's at another university. And I was going to send I wanted this job bad. I was going to send him my 25-page player development document, breaking down everything we're going to do in this city, everything we're going to do in the program. 25 pages, y'all, 25 pages. And he was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't send it to him. That's your intellectual property. And I'm so glad I didn't. I almost did. And they probably would be doing everything that I was going to send. And so I learned there, you give surface level solution that you don't mind leaving out there. Solution, like one could be like, hey, have you ever thought about engaging an alumni, not just during the season, but in the off season, surface level, right? Well, how do we do that? Well, I would love to interview and talk about that more, right? So do that, but you want to plan, right? Solve problems, give them a little bit, show that you can plan how to solve problems. When you're planning, you want to make sure whatever you're planning is solve a problem. Don't plan on something that they do well. I get it. But you don't want to plan on something they do well. They're already doing it. They don't need whatever you planning to get done because they do it well. You want to make sure that you're planning in regards to something that is a pain point. All right, so those are 3 tips you can use for your next player development interview. Number 1, listen. Listen to the press conferences. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to what the coach and athletic director are saying. Number 2, do your research. Research is bad boy like it's a project, right? Research the role, research the city, research the university, the organization, whatever it may be, research. And then number 3, plan. Plan based off of the pain points. Plan what you're going to do when you get there, but give them surface level solutions. Boom, that's a bonus. That is the mega episode. Let's go. We cover 5 different things in this episode. I'm super excited. That's that. It happened. We did the mega episode. This coaching carousel, this coaching movement is a lot. So I wanted to give you as much there as possible. If you have any questions that you want to get answered from a player development aspect or just my experience, in the role and in working in sports, let me know. Like I said, information about the 2026 Player Development Summit is in the show notes. And get your copy of the Player Development Guide, my book that breaks down all I did in the role. That's pretty cool. I want you to get your copy. It's in the show notes as well. All right, as I always say, have a great day. Go out there and create generational impact. Don't wait, create that generational impact today. And here is the episode I talked about a lot during my time working for Tom Herman. What it's like working for a coach that everybody wants. We did it. Mega episode. We out.